So hey, here we are, and well, in the meanwhile, you guys can probably check this out on my channel and send the link there on your socials. It's kind of a impromptu stream here in this afternoon for you guys. Early though, isn't it? You're what, lunchtime for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I was actually
Uh,
just in the middle of making lunch.
Brunch, actually,
Yeah, well,
if you really think of it.
it's a rainy afternoon where I'm at, London, UK. Pretty miserable weather we've been having, actually. Gale storms, and then suddenly the sun the sky opens up, and then these rays of sun coming down, and you think, oh man, this is a moment of inspiration, and then 10 minutes later, again, gale force winds, and horrible, absolutely horrible.
Sounds
But here
fun.
we are for another showcase, and I got with me today, great pleasure, the creator of JuanPool, Mistah Mahvel. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, and thank you for having me today, sir.
Awesome. Now you're squeezing this in your hectic schedule, and
Well, to be honest, you got really lucky. Usually I'm dad on Sundays, but my daughter is with her mom because her mom's birthday is very soon,
mhm,
and mom wanted to go away and do some celebrating. And I totally said I ain't the dad to stop her from having fun, so I'll use my free time to get around.
great, nice little excuse to sneak out from
Hmm.
parenting duties. And I got with him Josh, the amazing animator, Josh
How you
Van
doing?
Halteren. So, how are you, sir? Again,
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Suffering a little bit of energy drink withdrawal. That's basically what's been keeping me going through this insanely busy ride that has been the JuanPool campaign.
hmm. He's been going on for how many days now?
Well, we're just past halfway. Yesterday was the halfway point, and yeah, we're about 2 weeks away from the end of the campaign, and we're doing pretty well. We're very happy with the success of it so far, and we've gotten a lot of like really positive community interaction as well, which really makes me happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see on your campaign page, which I will start sharing very soon, that you're at the 40 days left. So you have a 1 month campaign since you're halfway through, like you just mentioned. And I'm just going to share something here. Actually, it's pretty cool because obviously, I mean, throughout my history online lately, I'm not sure exactly how long exactly, but at least a good part of a year. I've been hearing this name. This name keeps on coming back at me. Juan Pool, and okay, well, I started doing some investigations. So I started looking at it, and obviously, I came across your project, and that's all amazing. And let me just screen share it now because this is actually quite funny. Um, There we go. So as I mean, I go online, I do a JuanPool search, and here, right here on Google, I think you guys can see this now. I mean, you guys have a good of the first page and a half on the Google searches for JuanPool. So I mean, this is taken hold, man. I mean, this is awesome feedback. I mean, funny enough, if I do the same search, but I leave a little space in between JuanPool. So if I make a mistake and I type this is actually what I get. So it's just pools. But if I do the correct thing and we go back to where it
we,
was,
sh- we should we should do something to fix that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you definitely have some competition there, man. Not exactly the same market, but there you go.
Uh, uh, all I say is wait till issue 2,
Hmm.
and that might be funny to you guys.
And then maybe they'll start doing some.
No, more like when you type one pool together, you'll get the hero, and when you type them separate, it brings you the pools.
Yes.
That might be an in joke.
Well, yeah. Well, there you go.
You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? That might work to the advantage of the issue.
Or you can always get in touch with some pool builders, some pool makers, and see if they could probably print out the JuanPool logo or just a character shot on the tiles of the pool underneath the water. Huh? How crazy would that be?
I'll tell you what, if I ever get rich, and get a mansion, I'm 100% getting a pool in the shape of the original JuanPool logo.
Absolutely. Awesome. All
Couldn't
right.
agree
Well,
more.
Right? I'll have you over, Josh. We'll barbecue by the pool, kid.
Oh, you know I'm always ready for a barbecue.
Oh yeah, I'll let you bring your pineapples too, because I love you.
so Josh has recently joined. So how do you guys actually end up working together? Because obviously I know Josh from his channel here on YouTube, and I'm really I really want to check out any new animations you might have. Actually, I haven't been keeping a track on those, but they're delicious animations. But
Well,
how do you guys ended up working together? Because obviously, again, I've been hearing about JuanPool for some time, but I didn't know of Josh's involvement in this. So what exactly have you guys been cooking?
Well, actually, I have to let you know that unfortunately the Manimation stuff has stalled a little bit as I've been switching over to this side venture because what happened was Troy and I have always been good friends pretty much since we got in touch with each other, got to know each other. And another friend, mutual friend of ours, Dr. Science Wizard, he started up this thing with, it was just supposed to be like a collage where everybody designs their own hero, and we were all just gonna like put them up on a picture together, and that was just gonna be a fun little community project. But the thing kind of snowballed, and I started getting like ideas for stories and whatnot with how these could be connected together in a cohesive manner. And then it just kind of snowballed even more, got bigger and bigger to the point where we could no longer manage it on Twitter alone. Like at first it started off as a thread, then we went to DMs, and then I moved it all over to Discord so that we could further organize everything. And it got so big that I kind of decided, you know what, I should really just like start a comic book imprint, and then we could actually work towards making these ideas come to life and share it with the world. So in honor of Dr. Science Wizard that brought us all together, I came up with Science Wizard Comics, and I'll just share the logo there for that. I came up with Science Wizard Comics as a way to honor the origins of where all these ideas came from and how we all got together. And Troy was a part of this right from the very beginning, and a big part of it too. Like I can't stress that enough. After I started up the Science Wizard Comics for this other comic venture, that we were all working on together, Troy came to me and said, like, hey man, I want JuanPool to be with Science Wizard Comics too, and I also had this other comic project that I'm going to be drawing for another guy called Pineapple Pizza Man, and that's also going to be with Science Wizard Comics. So we've got 2 creator-owned series with the label already. Plus, we've also got a connective multiverse that we're working on as well. And hopefully, later on in the year, we'll be able to get the first 2 graphic novels based on that out as well. So we're working insanely hard together, and it all really came together organically. And I can't stress enough, like, I didn't go searching for Troy. Like, I was more than happy to let JuanPool be his own thing and let him do whatever he wants, and like not have any involvement in it whatsoever. But I was especially happy that he came to me, because I know the situation he's in, where he's really not in a position where he could really go forward with like an Indiegogo all by himself and get these things printed and distributed. So I was really happy about that, because then I could help to make that a reality, make that happen. Because JuanPool is a property that I really, really like. As soon as I read the first issue, I was hooked, and I want to bring that to as many other people as possible. So sorry if I was rambling a bit, but there's a bit of a history getting to this point.
Right. Oh, well, that's awesome to hear that. So you guys basically created your own imprint right now.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if we have still some time, we'll get back to that in the end. I really want to hear more about the label, especially because you mentioned the Pineapple guy, the Pineapple Man, and I've seen that as well. that's something that's been in the indie circuit for some time, for quite some years, I think, for a good half a dozen years. And that's a pretty cool comic as well. But let me just pass the word to Mr. Mahvel. So tell me, how did he start it? How did JuanPool start? Because I know he came about as some sort of meme. Is that correct?
Yeah. So well, one of the original YouTubers that really started getting the word out there about what was happening to the comic industry was Captain Cummings. He was very popular, still very well liked, still very well beloved. He started running these meme contests for fan art, and he called it Meme Sunday, and he'd always give a subject, and people would just submit the artwork. One week's subject was JuanPool, because she had just come out and everything. She had just really come out, and it was before her book actually ended up becoming one of the better of the modern Marvel books. But I ended up coming up with the concept of Juan, based off of just memeing if Marvel was really diverse, they'd have bisexual, body positive, Hispanic, and call him JuanPool. It took a little bit, but eventually people really started liking the concept and sharing it. And I started memeing him a little bit more and adding him into my YouTube channel here and there, and just playing with the community, and every so often show a little bit of art. At a certain point, everybody wanted to start knowing more and more of the character. So I started creating like how his powers would work and how he fights and his whole persona. Mm-hmm. But when it seemed like everybody was wanting an actual story of him, I realized that I was going to have to make it. And I started conceptualizing this really funny, goofy tale about this superhero that just couldn't get it right, and it was like a slapstick thing, and just everything looked like it wouldn't make sense unless you knew why he had the ability to do everything. It would have just come off as like a one-off slapstick. Everyone would have laughed and they would have moved on. So I did one of the things I really hate, and I did an origin story, just so I could show how it is that he becomes this funny character that everybody loves.
Right.
And the only way I could really come up with any idea was that whole based around the fact of parroting and doing satire of everything that was currently out, just to go along with him being satire of everything was out. And it hit me to make a story about the internet outrage culture, and I was able to build something off of that. And in those days, when I first came up with the concept, to not get all super personal, but it's when things really went south with the mother of my kids, and secretly, I thought that if I could successfully get a comic book out, I could impress her. Not so much, though. I'll tell you what, not so much. When you get to that point, you start thinking of anything you could do. I'd say the first maybe 5 to 10 pages were made during a really difficult time where we basically were estranged, living in the same house, but the remainder of it was done when I was living in my car, basically, because I had nowhere to go. Right. You know what I mean? And you kind of have to leave the woman with everything. So I kind of put everything I had into the book because I felt I had to knock it out of the park if I was going to get myself to a point where I can become stable as I build my life back up again. And I thank everyone in the community for receiving it the way they did. And I still am baffled to this day at what people
Yeah.
love about JuanPool.
Absolutely, man. A hell of a feedback. That's a great story as well.
You
But
know,
listen, you got. What's your background, man? Because obviously you clearly a well established cartoonist in terms of your line. So, had you done anything else before this one, or was just a passion project that just you ended up conciliating that with your talent? So, how do you come about into the comic scene then?
I mean, I'd say I just fell in ass backwards, if I'm allowed to, use that language. But
Whatever language you want. You can speak French or
yeah,
Russian, whatever you prefer.
right. No, I kind of fell backwards into it. I never really took like actually paneling books as a serious profession. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem something that I pulled off. I usually do like splashes or pinups or character concepts. So I just never attempted because it just didn't seem like something personally that I could pull off and make something out of. But I mean, I had been working with a couple of other artists that were kind of showing me some ropes and giving me tips on paneling, and I just kind of took all of their advice. I took all the criticism that I saw on Twitter. I started really listening to what people hated, and I just dove head forward and said, I hope this works. And I have to confess, I was very nervous about publishing it because I didn't, at last minute, I was like, oh no, I think this sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everybody gets that way.
We all go through that.
But I mean, I'm a tattooist full time.
That's right, yeah.
And that's what I've been doing for about the last decade. But I mean, I don't know. I've just been an artist all my life. It's just been what I do. At this point, I would say it's almost synonymous with my identity, even though I don't identify as an artist first.
Right, got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now coming completely from left field, right? I stopped reading Marvel years ago. Now we're talking about more than 20 years. I really, I couldn't care less their stories, they lost interest from me in the late 90s for, different reasons. I just went to different shores. I just started looking for, things that I was previously more in tune with, and then I just fell out of love with the US mainstream comics. So obviously when I see JuanPool, I'm thinking about Deadpool, obviously. But like you mentioned, you got a pastiche character out of JuanPool, which fortunately I know very little about. So obviously I recognize the costume. She's part of the Spider-Man universe and all that, but I'm completely out of it.
That's Spider-Gwen.
Oh, that's Spider-Gwen. Sorry. Okay. Yes. Sorry. This is the Deadpool.
Yeah, there's a lot of Gwens going around, but I mean, JuanPool isn't Gwen Stacy. She's right. Gwendolyn Poole.
That's right.
For as cheesy as that is.
And then on top of that, the Deadpool always gets involved into the Spider-Man comics as well. And again, that much I know of. So one more layer that confuses me. Who is JuanPool, basically? What does she do? Who is she?
Hey Josh, you want some talk time? You want to explain JuanPool, or you want me to take it?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you sure you want me to take it? Because I'm not very nice when I describe it.
Well, I mean, then we'll give our I'll give a quick description, the nice one, and then you go for it, so you get some talk time too, dude.
Sure.
I mean, basically, JuanPool is a character outside of Marvel,
right,
in the real world, that gets brought into the book. So she is completely aware that she is in a comic book, and her power set is based off of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's more of like an OMG millennial type of character for like young readers.
All right. Okay.
But I have to say, the book wasn't completely trash. Not something I would recommend pick up, but not completely trash, and probably they shouldn't have brought her mainstream. She would have been a really cool one and done. I think she like debuted in Howard the Duck.
Whoa. That's
which, you know what I mean? Which would have been really cool, just keeping her maybe there. I think she would have worked really well. But I mean, I guess they decided to go full blast with her. So I'll let Josh take it away.
Well, the way I always saw JuanPool was that it was basically some horny editor who wanted to put his intern into the book in hopes that she would get that in hopes that he would get her pee-pee touches.
This is also true.
Got you. Okay.
It's gross and creepy and incredibly manipulative. So I've always like I've always kind of like as soon as I think of JuanPool, I think of that. And yeah, that's how I would explain her. But yeah, he's right about everything else he says. Like the actual book itself wasn't all that terrible.
Right.
It was actually kind of a fun concept, all things considered.
Right. Yeah, but that's what you guys were saying. That's basically what I've been hearing about the character. This kind of pseudo toxic idea, and that is this kind of a little bit too much on the nose and doesn't really fall on either side of the spectrum. So it's kind of a bit of a conflict there in terms of the character. So and the way it's been perceived and received by the readership at large. But I mean, obviously going back to the page, I'm gonna just share this again because now we're gonna see your campaign, and I just would want to ask what was the process of getting to this stage that you have an Indiegogo now for issue 1 and 2. So you've previously published this. You previously released issue 1. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's already digitally published. Anyone can go pick it up right now on Comic Central. I believe I have it down to $1.
And when was that? When did this came out?
Last June.
Right, gotcha.
I just kind of put it out there. Right. I only did. Yeah, it's been out there for a while. I think last June is when I put it out. Mm-hmm. I just kind of, I mean, either June or July. But it was last summer. It could, you know what I mean? And I just kind of put it out there. Okay. I only really did like personal hyping, and some of my buddies on Twitter is like Weaponized Nerd Rage. He was a really big help in putting me out there. #1 Marmaduke fan, really vocal about putting the book out there. But I just kind of just put it out digitally and just so people could have the story, because I don't really, and I have no shame in saying I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I'm not a professional comic book artist. I'm a tattooist. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know how to keep. I could run a shop functionally and make it successful because I've been doing it for 10 years. But as far as making comic books, we're talking about the last year of my life. I'm even still learning proper ways to panel a page. You know what I mean? Like, people give me a lot of credit, but when they see JuanPool 2, they're gonna understand what I've learned from then till now. And that's why that's probably the biggest, well, the second biggest reason I went to Josh, because working with him as close as I had been for so long at that point, I recognized that he did know what he was doing, mm-hmm. Which leads to the #1 reason why I chose him. I wanted a publisher that loved the book and the character. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because they were going to push it to the fullest. If you're just publishing something because you think you're going to make sales, you're going to do that. You know what I mean? You're just going to go out to try and get sales. But if you love what you're publishing, you know what I mean? You hear it in every sales pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the proof is in the pudding too.
Absolutely. I couldn't ask for a better. I couldn't ask for a better publisher. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely 100%. I couldn't ask for a better publisher. No, I am serious. I'm 100% serious. I couldn't have asked anyone better to take care of my baby. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that. And you know what? It has been a lot of work. Like, I've been pushing this thing since day one, like, as hard as possible. Even just leading up to the campaign, like before the campaign, like I was hyping it up as much as I possibly could, letting people know like what we were going to do, thinking about ideas that we could use to build the hype and get an early an early response, but also to make sure that people get like a lot of value out of what they put into it too. And the first thing I thought of was and I'm always looking at what works in the other campaigns too, because I'm a regular supporter of a lot of the Indiegogo campaigns. I've supported 44 different titles, not including doubles. So I've seen a lot of campaigns for comic books. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't, because I'm a customer before I'm a publisher too. So I every time I look at a campaign and I'm thinking like, okay, this one didn't work for me. Why? I say this one did work to me. This one hooked me right away. Why? And I try to incorporate as much of that as possible into the JuanPool campaign. One of the things that I thought was really effective was customer interaction, making sure to get people involved in things, So the first thing I looked at was the early backer rewards, coming up with like tiers based on when you get in, So the people that support us early on, they get a little something extra as a special thank you for being such, fervent supporters. So we had a couple of custom poker chips similar to what they did with Blue Mamba. And then the other thing that I came up with was lightning round stretch goals. So we have our official stretch goals, but then at any given moment's notice, I do have them planned out what they will be, but at any given moment's notice, I will say like, okay, we have a lightning round stretch goal. So we'll get you even more if you hit a certain goal by a certain time, right? So that's another way that I've been trying to keep people involved and keep people paying attention to the campaign and spreading it, because when you hit these goals, you're not just benefiting yourself, but you're benefiting all of the other readers. So it's really nice. So we had the very first lightning round was day one. If we get funded on day one, I was going to put in a special thank you pinup. And we did that, and we got the amazing Carlo Rowe as our artist for that. So that's going to be really special. And then we hit our first stretch goal, which was at 5,000. And that gets everybody trading cards. So every single book will have a trading card put into it. They'll be randomized, and we have 5 different card designs. And the everything bundle, you get all of the cards, right? So that just makes it so that the everything bundle, that has just even more value put into it. And I mean, if we call it the everything bundle, we can't not give you all of the cards. It says everything, you should get everything. And then our $7,000 stretch goal was to get 2 additional pinups. And of course, we're getting some really good talent put together for those. Sashi is one, and she's already gotten started working on it. And the other one is a team of myself, Bruce Patnod, and Vince Rushhart, and we just finished up a pinup for the Jack Irons campaign. So we got that, but I also said if we hit it by this date, and I only announced it like 3 or 4 days beforehand, and we had like something like 1,000 to go, 1,500 to go, something like that, within that 4 days to get to that special stretch goal. And if you go into the updates, it has some examples there too. But the second lightning round stretch goal was that if we hit it by this previous Wednesday, at 7K, if we hit it by the previous Wednesday, then I would add Revengers stickers, which I've been getting a really fantastic artist called Raven. I commissioned her to design these Revengers stickers based off of, JuanPool and some of the various characters that are around the indie sphere, in the greater comics. In greater indie comics area. So we got like Jack Irons, we've got Sporkman, we've got my own character J-Pop from the Wicked Awesome team, who is actually is within the JuanPool universe.
Mhm.
And then what else? We got a couple more from some of our other friends, including Aldrich from Matt Wenger and Regina from Rags. So it's really great, fun stuff. We hit that goal. We hit that lightning round goal as well. We hit the 7K, and now we're on to our last lightning round goal and the last stretch goal. As far as we know, I mean, if we go further, like we might be able to do something more. But our last stretch goal currently planned is at $10,000, 10K, and that's going to be additional story content. So. Definitely, we definitely wanted to save the best for last.
All right. Well, that's great, man. You got all the community involved in this and participating and contributing as well. So that's awesome. Let me just take the viewers here over your campaign page because you still got 14 days to go. I know you guys are completely funded. Obviously, you already went over that. You doubled up. You doubled up already.
I'm actually proud to say we were 1 day funded. We hit the goal in 22 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
we actually went up. We went up 25% in 25 minutes, which is
that was
pretty cool.
Well, let me just quickly. You probably want to. Mr. Mahvel wants to take over now. While I'll just screen your perks, your tiers. So
I will take this opportunity to eat some chicken wings.
Eat up, my friend.
Make them nice and spicy. So you actually have a little plushie here, isn't it? You featured tier here at $40. You have the plushie pillow. And that's it. That's a plushie pillow. It's just a special perk you got here for 40
bucks. Just a special perk. It was very limited. Made by one of our good friends in Varnished. Also works with the Science Wizard comics imprint. Thought it was super cute. And I mean, why not? Why not? One thing that I know I've heard a lot as far as feedback from people is they love getting stuff with their campaign. Everybody wants to get merch. Everybody wants swag. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody's getting cool stuff along with the book.
Yeah.
And unique stuff. And stuff that plays to the strength of what me and Josh and our team at Science Wizard can bring.
Yeah.
And that plushie idea was like, yo, let's do it. I mean, I'm so happy because it was literally one of the, hey, do you think we could pull this off? And 2 days later, it's a special tier.
Yeah. You have 3 made.
That's amazing.
They're handmade, I guess. Obviously, you got 3 of them made in the whole world. Only 3 exist.
Only 3 exist. They're handmade. And there's still one available.
Still one available. You gotta snatch this. So obviously, you were saying that this was previously released digitally, and the issue 1 is available, just like we're seeing now here on the screen through Comics Central. But now, obviously, what this allows you is to finally get it on print, on paper, where the sweet spot is. So you got here the physical copy of issue 1 for $8. That's your first tier there, and then issue 2 for the same price separately. So you can either buy one or the other, depending on what you prefer. And then you got both of them together for 15. So that's great. You got a little discount there. She's awesome. And then you go on to the stuff with the merchandise. You got here to ask me about my shitpost agenda t-shirt.
which is a replica of the Radical Nemesis famous t-shirt, which is a parody of the Mockingbird character cover.
Yeah.
With the ask me about my feminist. Yeah, you know what I mean? With the ask me about my feminist agenda. So it's going to be really cool to get that out into people's hands. And I believe we're planning, a post a picture of yourself in it contest.
The famous
after
cover.
The campaign.
The famous cover was the final issue, wasn't it, of the first re-release of Captain Marvel? But again, she has so many different names over her different generations. Yeah, to be honest, I only really enjoy Miss Marvel when she came out back in the late 70s. And it was, even at that time was kind of a 50-50 kind of character, I really
Right.
like her costume. That's what I really like.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
Yeah. When they revamped it as again in the 80s, and she became what did she become in the 80s? I can remember she was no longer Miss Marvel, she was something else.
Warbird, I believe.
Before
She was
that.
binary.
I think Binary is after Warbird.
Yeah.
Whatever she's Marvel, but I can remember what she's calling herself. I don't think.
Was it Marvel Girl?
Sorry.
Was it Marvel Girl?
No, I don't think she was ever Marvel Girl, because Marvel Girl wasn't Jean Grey called Marvel Girl?
Right, that's what it was.
Yeah. Because she wasn't Miss Marvel bang in the middle of the 80s in the Avengers comic. They call her something else, but she was still Marvel in the name. Maybe she was called Mrs. Marvel. I can't remember. But the only thing that I miss from her original uniform, no, let me rephrase that. The only thing I prefer her original uniform. That's what I meant to say.
I think we all do.
Yeah, the only thing that I think was a leap forward when they approved the second costume, the one that she's most popularized by, with the lightning in the middle of her black swimsuit, basically. The only thing is that they loosen up her hair, so from that perm, that late 70s disco perm that she had, which I never really was a fan of. She has that nice 80s hairstyle and big hairdo falling down her shoulders, and they moved her red scarf, which I always thought it was a little bit, it was the only way to distinguish her from Captain Marvel, apart from obviously the boobs. But it was the only thing that I found that it was a good idea to remove from her neck and put it on her waist. So she has a little sachet now hanging down her legs. Although it made her look a little bit like Phoenix, that little detail in the design. But really, I always dig very much the original costume. It's pretty cool. I prefer more to the 80s one, because it just looks like something out of like a mysteries dungeon. It's too dark for me, that the concept in the 80s. But moving away from that, so we got 30 here for the 2 issues in the t-shirt. And then, you got the guys from Rags, right? And that's a hell of a book. I'm trying to get those guys on this show already for some time. And you got the poster here with the chick from Rags.
Well, that's not the one we're going to be offering.
Right.
That's just an example of the artist's ability to draw. JuanPool.
Got it.
We actually have 2 commission pieces from him. And man, I can't wait for people to see them.
Right,
because just the concepts alone are, out of this world.
Okay. He really brought his A game and then some.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking honor roll, valedictorian, A+ game.
Right. Okay. 24 by 36 inches posters. Wow, this is big stuff. This is not mini prints. It's actually proper posters.
Yeah, these are posters for your wall.
Awesome. So obviously, I understand the uptick in price from the previous tier where you had both comics at 15. Here you double up with a poster, but it's a worthwhile poster, man. It's big and obviously it's exclusive.
And yeah, and 2 of them.
2 posters. No, just one here, yeah. Both issues and 1 poster, and you got the digitals as well.
Here's the thing with that is that when I originally hired Luigi to do the poster, we were planning on only doing 1 poster. It wasn't until he showed us the concepts for them that we decided, oh man, we can't just do 1. Like, we have to get both of these designs. So what we're doing now is that the poster tier, you're gonna when we're done the campaign, you're gonna get a choice between either the A poster or the B poster. But then the everything tier is going to get both posters.
Right, got you. Okay. Well, let's go down here then, because after that you got the t-shirt and the poster, 45. And so this is your top tier. This is the everything tier you were just mentioning. And here you have two more items. Part one, okay, right. So here you basically get everything apart from the plushie. The plushie is really that separate little perk you got there in the beginning. So your full packaging in case people want to get the full experience. You got the two issues, physical issues. Got the T-shirt, and you're gonna have the two posters by the Rags artist. Awesome. Anything else you want to add to this campaign? Just to get some people salivating for it.
I mean, what's there already is pretty big, I think.
Awesome.
Especially if you get the everything campaign, because you're getting 5 trading cards, 3 pinups, 2 posters, 2 comic books, and a T-shirt. That's pretty fucking metal. That is a fantastic deal.
That is pretty kick-ass. But more importantly, you know what I mean, on a whole different level, you're helping out your buddy Mistah Mahvel. You know what I mean? I love the community. I go out of my way to make everybody happy and entertained. Josh does as well. Supporting this campaign and backing us helps get creators that love what they do closer to doing it daily.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
That's right.
Now, obviously, because, like I said in the beginning, I'm not familiar with JuanPool. So when looking at when looking at JuanPool, I'm getting here vibes of half a Lara Croft, half obviously a Glenn Poole. So is this guy basically, in a nutshell, what is the story about, really? I mean, this guy is he following step by step?
So basically, what happens is Juan is he lives in a world that's inhabited by superheroes. So he's not so much, from the real world put into a comic book, but his existence is a comic book world, if that makes sense. So we're reading it from the point of view of someone in the side of a panel of a comic book. You know what I mean? Every time you see someone in the background of a comic book, they themselves have a story within that comic book continuity, if that makes sense. Gotcha. Juan starts as one of those people. Except in his world, heroes are a commodity, obviously, and they affect society. And one of the things of heroes is, they obviously there's people that follow them and gossip and, everything that would go with a celebrity. And Juan is one of the people that holds essentially a YouTube channel where he just blogs about superheroes, gives latest updates, shares news articles, and he's very well received.
Oh, I see.
And what happens is he simply misnames a superhero, and the entire internet turns on him.
Oh, he's like a blogger. He's like a superhero.
He's basically a superhero blogger. He's going to give you your latest update on the superhero, on the biggest superheroes. He has a vast collection of superhero knowledge. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's very good. In fact, if I'd say there's any power he has right at the beginning, is Juan can recognize a superhuman feat. Like Juan knows when he's seeing a superhuman or a superpower of someone of high capacity perform. Like it's very hard to hold your identity from him because there are key things he sees in your movements where he recognizes you as a hero.
So he's like a media socialite. No, he's like a uber nerdy version of a media socialite, basically. So he's a guy that knows everything about it.
Yeah, he would be almost like a boogie. Big, jolly, friendly guy. Bringing you your news, bringing you everything. I would describe him more SJW at the beginning of this tale. He would be essentially he's essentially your useful idiot. He doesn't really know much about what he's preaching, but he knows he believes in it, and you're wrong for disagreeing.
Yeah, he knows.
Which makes it even more ironic that they turn on him because he's one of their own.
So
You know,
as a clear counterpart to what happens today all over media, basically. That's a cool idea.
you
Yeah,
know,
it's really good. Like it's a really good like subtle social commentary within the story. You know, it keeps you engaged with the story, but there are those hints of social commentary that are relevant to our own world. Um, but like it really only hits you on a on a subconscious level unless you're very familiar with it and are like or are actively looking for it. You know.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can work, should work, and obviously, I advise everyone to, if they have a chance, to go and check out the issue 1, which is on Comic Central, right?
Mm-hmm.
yep,
And
Indie Comic of the Year nominee
That's true.
sorry,
In two different categories.
in 2 different categories.
yeah, tell me more about that. How does that work? I mean, what are those awards in the first place? I
I
don't know.
mean, it's just accolades. I'm not quite sure what it's based off of, what the criteria is based off of. But I
Probably
mean, I'm
sales.
very honored to be nominated. Uh, if you go to Comic Central, I have nothing but very good reviews. I believe it's a 5-star book. It's usually trending, and it has been since I published it.
And
That's
it's been on the top 10 on the site since you published it too.
Correct.
That's absolutely awesome, man. I mean, come on, you arrive on the scene and you're trending. That's just beautiful.
Well,
So
someone
with
pointed out
accolades
to
like
me.
that,
Yeah. No, go for it. Finish your statement.
I was just gonna say, so with accolades like that, why would you not want to jump on the physical run of the print? I mean, this is going to be the first printing, right? Especially if you're a collector, and especially if you're taking a look at the way the wind's blowing with comic books right now, like the indies are moving up and the mainstream is moving down. So getting on this train early is probably going to be a pretty big deal down the road. I think anyway. That's my personal opinion. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the ultimate objective, isn't it? Is to bring down the mainstream, and then there'll be
No,
more room for
no, I
everyone.
disagree. I disagree. The ultimate objective is to supply people with genuinely entertaining and fun comic books.
Yeah, because I mean, the positive goal that you want to achieve is you force the mainstream to go back to pleasing the fan to compete with the indies, and then everybody wins. Because then we get our books out, we make our fans, and the big industries, learn the lesson of respect your fans.
Yeah.
So it could be a win-win for every single person involved.
Yeah. And speaking of more winning, which we've been doing, there's a lot of surrounding this campaign. If you'll feature my screen for just a moment.
Yeah, sure. Let me fix this on you.
So as you can see here, I've got some various profile pictures on a slideshow going on. Each one of them with their normal avatar and then the quantified avatar. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I'm offering myself during the campaign is for $15, I'll take your profile picture and I will quantify it. And then all of the proceeds go directly back into the campaign as well. So that's one additional thing that I've been doing to help get customers and community involved and still be able to help the campaign.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean there's some fun stuff too. I mean I'm having a blast doing these. So I've got every time I come up with one, like I come up with a name for them as well. So we've got this guy right here, this crazy beast necromancer, and I turned him into the Taco Mancer. I mean, it's just so much fun doing this. The man of sex, he becomes the man of mechs. So I mean, we're always trying to think of additional ways that we can, really get people involved, and this was my personal contribution because and it's been going towards a good cause. Like I'm not just funneling the money directly into the campaign. I'm buying books with it. I'm buying tiers with it so that I can put those towards contests, giveaways, and people, you know, who might have like or in having some financial difficulty, who are really want the book but are unable to contribute. Like we had one person who bought the everything bundle, then refunded it. He bought the two comic bundle, and then he refunded it. So I contacted him and was like, "Hey man, what's going on? Like you keep backing and rebacking." And turns out he was in a bit of a financial crisis at home. And he said, "But this is like one project I like really don't want to miss out on." So that was where I came up with the idea of doing these avatar things. So that way I could, you know, get him that comic. And then I was like, well, why don't I just keep doing this? I could do some giveaways. We could do some, we could use it towards a prize for the Juan Sona contest. I mean, it's just a win-win for everybody. Plus, the people that do, you know, pay for this little service of mine, they get like some custom artwork and that little personal touch. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's another wonderful idea, Josh. I mean, you've done very well in this campaign as a publisher, which leads me to my next two questions, my final two questions. One for Mr. Mahvel. So, what's the future of JuanPool? For how long you think you can keep this up in terms of issues? You mentioned even I think some crossovers there, and so what's the plan for the next few years? What?
Right now, I just want to survive this campaign.
That is tough. Yes, I know that.
And make sure I get everything that's going on artistically involved with this done, and finish all of my prior artistic obligations and commitments to other people. From then, we'll be focusing on a couple of companion books to tell one cohesive story from two sides. One will be created from Josh's side, and one will be created from my side. And I don't know, Josh, you want to plug a little more on that?
Sure. Well, basically, there's two different titles happening within the same universe. It's all connected to that connected multiverse I was telling you about earlier that we started working on with the Science Wizard Comics group.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one story, but we have two different graphic novels following two different teams of people. On the one side, there's my book, which is called Help Becky Smash. And that follows these two girls that are looking for a certain MacGuffin that I don't want to spoil just yet what that MacGuffin is. So they're searching for that. And then the other side of the book, which is Troy's graphic novel, is called Last Call. And that follows a group of mercenaries that are trying to stop these two girls from getting said MacGuffin because of the devastation and power that it holds.
Two sides of the same story. That's interesting.
Right. So if you get Help Becky Smash, so when we do that campaign, we're going to have the option that you could, you could get Help Becky Smash, or you could get Last Call, and both are going to be self-contained stories. They will flow very nicely, and you'll be able to enjoy them just fine on their own. But then we'll also have one where you could get both of them together. And in that case, if you get both of them, then you'll get really the full story. So you get Help Becky Smash. That's going to be primarily from these two twin girls' perspective. You get Last Call, and that'll be mostly from their perspective. So if you read both of them, you kind of get the full story because you realize where everybody is coming from, beat for beat, along the way. Gotcha. So it's a little bit experimental, but we're really excited about it, and we've been putting a ton of work into this on the side before the JuanPool campaign. We kind of had to put that on the shelf until the JuanPool campaign's finished. But once the 30 days is up, we're going to be getting back into that hard.
So Josh, this is the imprint is called Science Wizard Comics. That's correct?
Yes, it is. And we do have a website called sciencewizardcomics.com, of course, where you can go, you can check things out there. We have links to the Comic Central version of JuanPool as well,
Yep.
and we're working on filling up some of the content so people can know a little more what's coming down the pipe.
I will drop the link for that site on well, below the video. And so this seems to be a long-term thing in terms of these imprint. So you kind of, like you mentioned in the beginning, you're putting your animation gigs on the side, and you guys gonna dedicate yourselves to this full time or something?
I mean, not entirely. Like, because I mean, animation and comic books, like they're so intertwined in so many ways that eventually I want to get it to a point where I kind of step back a little bit more from the creative side of things on the comic book stuff, and stay strictly managerial, so that I could then switch my focus back to the animation stuff, and then we could kind of like use, like, they're sister companies. They're both my ventures, so I want to be able to have like a lot of like cross promotion within them. Like I could use the animation to help with promoting the books on Indiegogo. I mean, who doesn't love a little extra pizzazz to their campaign videos, right?
So you become kind of you take kind of a George Lucas kind of thing, isn't it? You stop directing, you go into executive producing.
in a sense, yeah. I mean, I might still do some. I'll probably still do some writing and art as well.
Yeah,
but just probably not quite as much.
All right, awesome. Well, guys, I mean, I'd love to have you here for the rest of the afternoon, but obviously,
I do need to get I need to get down with some business. Have a nice clear day, and I'm gonna blast some art out for some people.
That's it. You guys need to get back to your stuff. So it was a great pleasure to have you guys come here on such a short notice and share the campaign with us. And that's great. You have 14 more dice to go. Obviously, you're already over the top, which means you're over the moon already, hopefully. And I mean, the greatest luck with this the Science Wizard project. This all sounds very exciting. All these crossovers of characters and upcoming books. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on, and make sure to send some links and whatnot on Twitter, because this was a fantastic interview. You did a great job, man.
Absolutely. No, I'd be back anytime, man.
Thank you.
Likewise.
I was better in my glory days, though. A long time ago. Thank you, guys, and for everyone else, just subscribe to the channel. So YouTube can always pump these streams up the count, up their algorithm or whatever, however it works. And like the video as well. Thank you very much to the guests, and goodbye from me to everyone. And until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.
And join the army of one.
Absolutely, taking over. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.